Hello again, this is UML Operator. All right, we're ready to get started. In this session, we're going to create our first project. Now, you may have been playing around and created some projects as you were going through our Sparx tabs and ribbons learning session. So we're actually going to put what we talked about into action, and we're going to create a new project. So the first thing we're going to do is under the open section in the start page, we're going to select create new. It's going to go to a place where you want to manage your projects, your Sparx projects. And we're just going to call this Sparx projects. Give it any name you want, unique name. And there it shows up in recent. All right. So we're in the default layout. We've got a root node called model. And then over on the right, again, we've got properties. And on the lower right, we've got nodes. All right. So we've got a new project. It's blank and we're ready to get started. The next thing we're going to do is set up our workspace. All right. So you learned how to create custom workspaces. You learned about quick access. We're going to select this. And these are all of our custom workspaces. I'm just going to go to my default, right? And you've configured your own. This is basically taking the default layout and adding the toolbox. That's all it's doing. You have browser on the left. Now you got toolbox in between your work area and browser. You still have properties on the right and notes on the lower right, right? So I want to have the toolbox up here. We're in this custom layout and we want to have a toolbox up for what we're getting ready to do. So here we go. This next step you can skip, but you all learned about reference data in the settings tab. And we're going to go to transfer and we're going to import in some reference data. So we're going to go out and find our reference data. And we're going to use this reference data from our demo project that we've been building over the last several sessions. And we're going to import that in. When that comes in, it brings in our scripts, any document templates we created, model authors, patterns, brings tag values, any of these stuff in. Again, if you don't have this, this is fine. You'll learn how to do that. We're going to import that. And there we go. So now we should have things like, if I go to design, I should have a glossary, which, I can use. It's part of that. And I have some other things that we brought over from the demo project that we built over the Sparx tab and ribbon sessions. And again, if you don't have reference data, don't worry about it. But the power of reference data is when you're building how you want to lay things out and work in your tool, that you can reuse everything that you built up, the documents, the reports, and other things. So again, don't worry about it if you don't have that. We are going to continue forward in building out this project. All right, now over in the browser, let's start creating some packages. We're on the root node. It's called model by default every time. You can certainly hit F2 and rename your root package, but I wouldn't do that at this time. Just leave model. I typically don't ever change the original root package, but when you start creating and adding other root nodes, which we'll cover in future sessions, you name it anything you want. Let's go with model. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a package, right? So we're just going to create a new blank package. You could use the wizard, but we're going to just use this icon here for new package. When I select that, I get a new package dialog, as you recall, and I'm just going to call this main. All right, it's my main landing area, it's my main package and all of that. And I want to create a diagram under this package. I don't need to use the model pattern, select and apply model pattern. And if I just wanted to create a package only, I would have this selected, all right? But we're going to create a diagram. Now the diagram wizard dialog box pops up, and what we're going to do, you can pick any diagram you want. You've got behavioral, you've got extended, all that stuff. But usually the first one I tend to create class diagram types every time I create a package, depends on what I'm focused on. So let's go ahead and create a class diagram, right? So one of the things, it tells you what package you're in and the diagram name. We're going to leave, it usually defaults the package name. I'm going to leave this and call the diagram main. I could call it main landing page or something like that, but it could use auto name. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. And I'm going to go with that. So now over here, I've got a main landing page, double click it and open it. So now I have this class diagram. So the toolbox is tailored to the diagram type. So now I have all the tools for working on a class diagram, and we're ready to move on to the next step. Let's create some more packages. I stutter there because I often refer to these as namespaces, but when we get into more object-oriented architecture and development, we'll start to align with some of this nomenclature, right? So if I was to create a new package under main, that's where it would show. So I want to go back up to the root because I want the next package to be under the root node, root path, root package, right? I don't want it in main, so we're going to do this again. All right, this next one, you can call anything you want. I mean, when you get down to a naming convention, you might want to create something for project management. I'm just going to call this delivery management. And then I want a diagram, and I can pick various extensions. I am going to, for this one, I can always change it. We'll show you how to do that. I'm going to use custom, right? So custom, open it. Now I've got, open that up. See, I have the tool package for custom. And if we want to change this, and we will, when we're going forward, we'll do that, right? So now you see that how Sparx organizes your packages is in alphabetical order. And you can resort and change this, but you know, we want to have a particular order. So I like to have this one down below, right? I'm going to show you now using auto naming, which you learned in the last session around settings. I'm going to show you how to auto name your package during package creation. Now you have chapters down below. You can skip over this section if you want. But typically, I'm going to select main, and I'm over in properties, make this a little wider. You can see the properties. This is what this is called. Now, I like this to be in a certain outline or hierarchy. So I'm going to put a 1 and then close parentheses in front of that and create something like this. Now, I could, depending on how many package, I could put 01, 001 if I was creating 999 packages, but I'm not. I'm just going to go with a 1, and then we're going to see what happens if you go over 10 packages because the way that it sorts. So probably should start it out right, but I want you to show you what happens. So in delivery, I always like to have this as a second package. So I'm over in properties, renaming this. I can certainly come over here and hit function key 2, F2, and I can rename that way, all right? So you can start to see, hey, this is how I want to outline and lay this out. You're in the middle of project creation. Let's auto name the rest of the packages. I'll try to put a link above to each one of these sessions, but it was in the session dealing with the settings tab. And we're going to go to settings in the reference data group, and we're going to click on auto names and counters. And the type that we want to choose is package. So I'm going to hit P for package to go down this long list. And in here, I'm going to skip over stereotypes. I don't need that. We're not doing that in this session. I am going to say something like, don't need to put anything in prefix. My counter, I want to start at 3, then no space. We're going to put a close parentheses and a space. So when this goes to create, it's going to start at 3. It's going to put a parenthetical, close parentheses, marker in there, a space, and then I can type the name, right? So make sure you click on apply at creation, otherwise it's not going to work. And we're going to hit save and close, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back up to modeling, right? I can go ahead and close this. I'll keep landing page open. Go back up to modeling, and we're going to create a new package. Look what happened. It auto named it for me. Started at 3, and this next package we're going to call ideation. Now you can call it anything you want, requirements, engineering, requirements, I don't know, development, just requirements. I call it ideation. Again, call it anything you want. We do want to create a diagram. And in this case, we actually do want to use out of the extended, we want to use the requirements type. And it tells you, Sparx will tell you what each one of these does. And I am going to go ahead and do that. All right, we have that package set up. Let's set up a couple of more. So I'm going to select the root node again. I am going to go create a new package, auto-named it, incremented to 4. And in this package here, I'm going to call this one needs assessment and create a diagram. And I'm going to go with, let's see here. I want to be different. I'm, always go with class diagram. Let me go ahead and stay with that. So you can see it's creating 3 and 4, put that one underneath that. Why is that? Because maybe N comes after I, 3 after 4, whatever. But let's keep creating some more packages. We're going to learn together as we're going, right? So here's 5, hit the N key to go to the end. And the next one is going to be called solution approach. Again, follow any convention that you want. I'm just going to use class diagrams. All right. And then the next one is, next package is incremented to 6. And we're going to call this design. Again, we're going to use a class element. Go really quick. The next one is going to be development, I think. Going off memory here. I do this so often. You're going to learn that to create reusable patterns and so on, so that you're able to create these projects really fast as you're going forward, right? So notice how I created 1 and 2 without auto naming, and I moved these things around. They're down there. We're going to talk about it in a moment. Let's create a couple of more. Let's see here. After you develop something, you got to test it, right? So we're going to, the next one incremented to 8. We're going to call this testing. And we're going to create a diagram. Probably should use something different than class, but I can always change that. So I'm going to go with class, go back up to root. And then, of course, after you test something, hopefully you're deploying. So we're going to call this one deployment. All right. And there we go. Now, we're going to talk about these diagram types in other videos. You see something that's called a diagram type called deployment. Well, that's not the purpose of this package, this namespace. So it may include a deployment diagram, also may include component, class diagram, more packages, could include state machines, timing, sequence, project management. If we go down here, we're learning this, all sorts of project management. You can go down here and do a search, project management. You can choose these diagram types to your heart's content, right? But I just put in a class diagram. Once I get to that point, I can go ahead and change that later. All right, remember, we're just playing around here, all right? Not serious yet. Let me move this one up to the top. I'm just using these arrows here to move packages up and down, order them the way that I want. And if I would have been using auto number from the beginning, it would have laid them out. We have 9 packages. Now, what's interesting is when you go to 10 and you're doing sorting, especially in sub packages, the 10 starts with 1. So that's why you use a 0, a placement, because it helps sorting in Sparx, because Sparx doesn't know whether that's a 10 or a 1, 0 or a part of 1 when it's sorting. So anyways, you'll learn that more as we're going through and creating projects and delivering, specific architectures, topics, and subjects. All right, so we've started a project. We've created some packages, some steps for delivery in here. Each one of them will have same or different authors focused on different views, viewpoints, and concerns. So we put diagram types underneath it. In this particular case, you see we used a class diagram. In this particular case, we used the custom, which gives us a package creation, requirements. We can bring in issues, changes, but that's not what I do in delivery management. So I want to change this diagram type to something else. Let's do that next. All right, during the learning series for Sparx tabs and ribbons, we learned that in the design tab, we can manage packages, diagrams, elements, and of course we have access to dictionary. We want to change this diagram type. So we go to the diagram panel or group, we go to options, change type. So right now it's on custom, and I want to change it to maintenance because I want all the tools and capabilities there. You can certainly change it, add other diagrams that do different things, but in the maintenance diagram, this Sparx tells you what you can use this tooling for, and you can select help and learn more. All right, but I'm just going to go ahead and change it to maintenance type. Right, as soon as we did that, look at that, it changed the toolbox to maintenance type. Well, I still have issues, change, tasks, test cases, and I can do other things. All right, so I could also come up here in diagram type, change type, search, project management, because really that's what this is about. Let's change to project management. Now I have selection project management, right? Project management modeling, roadmaps, backlog, right? I'm going to choose project management, hit OK. Now I have all of the tooling in here for project management, right? So and there's a lot of tooling. So you can learn this, play with this on your own. But see, I also get issues, change, defects. I can do lots of different things here around projects, access to building a backlog folder, all sorts of things. So we'll get into some of these tools and diagram types in later sessions, but that's not what this particular video is about. All right, so let's go ahead and leave project management as the diagram type. So now, if I close this and I go to delivery management and I launch this, it naturally brings up the diagram type for project management and the tooling for project management. All right. So ideation. Well, ideation is requirements. I'm staying with this diagram type. Don't need to change it. Needs assessment. Well, we went with a class, but what does needs assessment mean? It's basically around analysis, a gap analysis and things like that. Class diagram probably isn't the most productive tooling for what I want to do when I'm doing needs assessment. So we're still in the diagram tab. We're going to the diagram panel or group, and we're going to change type. In this case, we're going to go to extended, and I want to use analysis. So you can see the elements, the tooling that it gives under analysis. You can look at construction, and it depends on what you're doing, but I want analysis. So I'm in OK. Now I get the tooling for analysis, and I get a bunch of other tooling as well. But I primarily use these tools during analysis and object-oriented analysis and so on. See how we got actors and objects and all sorts of tooling here that I can use during analysis. Let's go to solution approach. So what's the difference between solution approach, needs assessment? Well, first off, ideation is where you're starting your requirements development and your requirements engineering processing. And then as you're going into requirements development, which I talk about in a separate video around requirements and what requirements development is versus requirements management and requirements engineering, you understand there's steps to delivery. First, it's what's the problem? What is it you want to do? So I do that in ideation while we're brainstorming, ideating, and all that fun stuff. Needs assessment is basically, yeah, you've given me the problem, but what I want to see is the gap between the as is, what you're doing today, what you have today, and then the to be, what you want to do in the future, right? So that's why when I use the analysis to do gap analysis, there's certainly other tooling in Sparx that you can use, but this is typically where I start. I can create as many diagrams and elements in each one of these namespaces or packages that I want. So solution approach is now solving the problem based off of the problem and the gap analysis. You're not solving a problem if they're not changing the problem, the business requirement, right? The methods and procedures. That's not what you're solutioning around. You certainly don't want to break the as is or what's currently going on, but you want to have the tooling underneath that. So when you're setting up your project, just step through your own ideation. So your own delivery life cycles, your own methodologies, and I could go on using all of the industry buzzwords. Right. Typically after we do solution approach, which is the who does the what, right? Requirements is what's the problem, right? Solution is who's going to solve the problem. And design is, well, how is the who going to solve the problem? And I'll get more into that in other videos. And then, of course, basically development is extension of the how, more detail. Often in design, because when you're looking at waterfall, we used to call it system requirements, right? That's the will to the what. We commit, we contract that we will solve this problem, the what, right? Now in agile methodologies, we go into sprints and we go in through design exercises, and we're coming up with how we're going to solve particular user stories, capabilities, features, etc., right? And then when you're doing development, you're truly stepping into, hey, we're going to fulfill how we're going to solve the problem. Here it is, right? And then you're going to test how successful you were, and then you're going to deploy. That's very simple 9-point exercise. It could certainly be a 4-point exercise, but however you're delivering, and I'm going to get more into different approaches, we're just learning how to set up packages and set up a project. All right, let's go ahead and close this. Let's close this. And we're on the main landing page is what we called this up here in the main. I'm going to right click in this diagram since it's up, and I'm going to left click on find in browser. All right. Or I could hit Shift Alt and G and it'll do that. I'm going to select it. Goes right to the browser area where this is. Now, when you're in, if you recall the navigation video, when you're in here, you can very quickly jump in, drill down into specific areas, and these are the breadcrumbs, right? Then you can go backwards, back up to the model, the root folder, up through your packages, and you can very quickly get to things. So you're going to learn lots of tips and tricks, but if you have diagrams up and you want to very quickly get to them, just right click in there or hit Shift Alt G, and you can immediately find this. Now, why do we create the main landing page? We're going to talk about that next. So later in video sessions, and we start publishing to the web, or we're using Sparx Prolaborate, having a main landing page is like having a home page on your website. It allows your main landing page for people to come into and get to other things, right? So we created all of these packages and we put some diagrams in them. And we want to quickly get to them when we land on this main landing page. So we're going to make this main landing page the default when we open up this particular project. And you learned about that during our training series on tabs and ribbons. So we're going to do that next. Right, so I'm on the main landing page diagram. I have this up as an example. I'm just going to stay focused on this. And if you recall from the Start tab video, there's something called Model Home. We're going to hit this down caret. You see Manage, and we're going to set Current as default. So main landing page is our current. We're going to set that as default. Now main landing page is the default when we load this project. So if we go to the Start page and we launch our Sparx project, the main landing page comes up immediately for us on Start. You're not, typically with on Start page and everything's blank, you actually land on a page that helps you very quickly get to things that you want to get to. And I'm going to show you how exciting that is in later sessions, but we're ready to go. Let's start building our main landing page for the packages and diagrams that we created. So the first package number 2, that we want to get to is this diagram. Now, when you drag and drop, hold down left mouse button, I'm just going to let go anywhere in the work area. I have some choices. I can bring it as a diagram frame, diagram reference, hyperlink, or this really cool thing called navigation cell. And I'm not going to talk about list right now, but you can play around with this if you want. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to bring this diagram reference in our landing page as a hyperlink, right? There we go. It took the namespace, delivery management, and the diagram name, which is the same name, right? Now you notice over in notes in the lower right, when I select this, it's the notes for this element, the intelligence for this element. Now I can right click on this and I can go to properties, and there's a few ways, and I get this properties diagram, hyperlink properties, and the type is a diagram, not going to change it. I can come up here and point to something else, not going to do it, but I can give it an alias, right? Or I can explain it, right? I can hide the icon, I've hit OK, the icon is gone. I can do all of that. And just like in a web page, you can create, go back to properties, you can create, I want the icon on actually, like web links. You can add the web links into conversations and that kind of thing. So I'm going to use the right-hand side for notes, and I'm going to take out the number, and I'm only going to use the diagram name, all right? And then from here, I can type anything that I want, right, that explains this hyperlink. And I might say, here we are starting with project delivery. I don't know. Type anything you want. But the point is that I'm writing a statement in here, just like I would in a web page for a URL, right? Now this is kind of small to read in its 100% view. I usually like to change the font. So y'all learned about layout. Y'all learned about style. I want to change the font to Verdana, 10 points. I'm going to, font style is going to be regular. There, it's a little larger. I like Verdana, just me. You might be something else. Do anything you want. I'm going to hit Control S to save, and you can bring in hyperlinks for all these diagrams, right? The other way to do it, I'm going to drag the same diagram into the landing page. I'm going to use navigation cell. Now, I really love this feature, these capabilities. So right now what it says, say select an image, and they have some images that you can use, and we'll talk about adding more and do other things as we're going through. You can play around with these. I'm just going with the Web EA default set. The other ones are just coloring the same icons. And delivery management, and just pick any icon that you want. I'm just going to pick this set, this icon here with a hard hat on it, right? So now I have the ability to navigate to the same diagram, right? So I can double click the hyperlink. I go right to the diagram. I'm going to close it. I can double click the navigation cell. I go right to whatever the diagram is and reference in that and all the intelligence under it. I could preview and hit this little lower right, and it just brings up, hey, what's in that, right? And it's empty, so there's nothing in it, but you can preview. I really love the navigation cell. The issue may be, so let's go ahead and steal all of this content here. I'm just going to copy, and I'm going to put underneath notes here, all right? So here, the reader on a web page, delivery management, and you can type out this long statement about what this delivery life cycle is, or you can put a navigation cell, and you'll notice when I select the navigation cell, I can put intelligence underneath it. They can click on it and I can see it there. So it's really up to you. You could do a combination of both. Depends on what your user experience is. Usually on a web page, I do this. It's more readable and I can read things out. But as you saw in EA example project that Sparx give you, their use of the navigation cell, let's go ahead and click on it and see. Extremely powerful. I mean, when you're bringing it up, come on, it's an extremely powerful way in a landing page to quickly get to things that you want to talk about, things that you want to do, right? Because these icons are pictorial, they're graphical. You know, it's better than words in some cases. So you go ahead and choose how you want to do it. Let's go back to our project, right? And auto loads our landing page. And you make a decision on what you want to do in your landing page, right? So what I'm going to do is go through all of these. Delivery management, we already got that one. I'm going to go to ideation, bring that in here. I'm going to use navigation cell. And, you know, I'm not going to waste a lot of time. I'm just going to randomly pick icons so you can do what you want to do on each one of these. And just go through and play around, all right? So we're into needs assessment. Maybe I grab something with some people in it, you know, and go from there. So solution approach, drag that in. I'm just letting go of the mouse. I'm go ahead and select it. Remember the last selection you had, navigation cell, and we're on solution approach. I don't know, what could be kind of cool for that one? Gosh, you know, I always have problems with, well, what do I want to pick? You know, I'm going to go with what has the ADM, the TOGAF's architecture development method in it. Yeah, that one looks cool. I got Archimate reference and all of that. All right, so then design. See, we're starting to lay out our landing page for folks. All right, so design, I don't know, let's use something that's like this. Okay, probably not a good one, but you decide. Development, that's definitely got to have a wrench, a hammer, some stuff in it, right? So maybe this one, right? Icon, right? And then also what you learned is you can bring in your own custom elements, pictures, and so on. Never tried it, but you can do that too. So let me not lose step. Testing. What's a good testing one? Yeah, this looks kind of cool. Click that one. All right. And then deployment. Last one. Deployment. This video is getting longer than I wanted it. I don't know. Let's just do this one for now. All right. So zoom out a little bit. Right. One of the things you learned also in layout is that you go to layout, you can select elements during that session. I want to top alignment them, and I want to space them evenly apart, alignment, right? Then you can come down to these, and I want to space down evenly. There we go. And I want them left justified, right? And I can do that here very quickly, right? And it mathematically, it should work out. If this one is top aligned, then these should all be evenly spaced. In this particular case, I'm just going to left justify. I'm going to use the right. Let me do it again. I'm going too fast. Right click, select the two items, right click on the one you want to line on, and I want to line left, all right? Select two items, right click on the one you want to line on. I want to line top, or I can remember the shortcuts, Control, Alt, and up, all right? So then you have all this neat spacing and so on. And I'm going to select this link because I want to delete it, Alt G. Just don't hit the delete key, all right? Because watch this, if I hit delete, it didn't delete it out of my browser. And I'm sorry to be picky on this, but I want to delete it. You know, I deleted it from the diagram. I want to delete it from the database. I want to delete it from the browser that's over here. So we're going to undo, right? So we're in layout. You can use this undo. You can hit Control Z, whatever you want to do, right? So what we're going to do is we select the item that we really want to remove from the database, right? You got to be sure about this. We're going to use the shortcut keys, Alt G, finds it in the browser automatically. I think you can also right click on this and find in the browser, but I never do it that way. I don't see the selection. I select an element, Alt G, finds it in the browser, and then right click on this and delete. And then I have, delete notifications turned on, because you can turn this off and it'll just delete it, won't warn you. Do you wish to delete this? Are you absolutely sure? Anything that's underneath it will be removed as well. So be very careful when you're deleting things, because once they're out of the database, there is no undo. There is no undo. It's all grayed out. They're gone forever. So be careful when you're deleting things. If you just want to delete it from the diagram and leave it in your project browser in the database, that way you can always bring it back in and reference it, and all the hard work you might have put into that element, do that. But I'm just telling you, when you get a lot of people that are working as a team on this database is going to get extremely large and unwieldy. So I usually like to start out clean and maintain clean as much as possible throughout the delivery lifecycle. All right, let's clean some things up here. So we created some packages, some diagrams. We created a landing page. We made the landing page our default. You can see these navigation cells we created. They're under the triple dot, so they're kind of hidden away from everything, so it doesn't pollute up your model references, your diagram references, and all of that. I really like that feature. We'll talk more about all of this later on, right? So to wrap up here, and all of the stuff that we learned during the Sparx tab and ribbon sessions, we actually put some of those things in practice, but there's a long ways to go, right? So we're going to get into patterns later on, where you're building patterns, such as maybe a cover sheet. So I want to add a pattern that's a cover sheet. I want to preview how I want that cover sheet to be. And I can actually add this pattern as a header up at the top that's going to show up in the web page. We'll get into all of that in later sessions. In our next session, we're actually going to start creating and building a real project. We're going to get into some diagrams from the very beginning, from delivery management, just some quick examples. Try not to spend too much time in this series on each one of these, but give you an idea how to work through your delivery lifecycle using namespaces and packages that work best for you. All right. So I look forward to seeing that session. Thanks very much. Comments down below. Hammer me. You don't agree? Let me know. You agree? Let me know. You have a better idea and approach. You use Sparx and you're a better expert than me. Let us know. All right. Comment down below. Please follow. Put on notifications. We're going to be cranking out a lot of different videos, trying to look at the comments, maybe adding those in as future videos. Let us know. All right. Looking forward. Talk to you all later. Bye-bye.